Day 1. I flew into San Jose alone, ready for the adventure of a lifetime. I don't speak much Spanish, but everything went okay, for the most part. I needed to get from San Jose to La Fortuna in the north, and I considered renting a car at the airport, but it was very expensive. I also considered taking public buses, but I knew those would take a really long time, and I only had about 1 week for my trip. So I relied on Uber and taxis for the shorter trips, and then bookaway.com shuttles for longer trips. The roads for the most part were very good, and some looked even brand new. The cars run on natural gas. I was immediately glad that I didn't rent a car. The trek from San Jose to Fortuna winds through steep mountains and small towns. At times there was a lot of traffic, especially as we passed through the towns. As night fell, it got very, very dark, which is another reason why I was glad I didn't rent a car. La Fortuna is a great location for adventurers. It's at the foot of Arenal volcano, and there are a ton of things to do in the area, including hot springs, hiking, zip lining, rafting, and hanging bridges. Fortuna has a main strip with a good amount of traffic. People are constantly streaming into the city. There are a lot of shops and food options. I always felt safe even when venturing to the non-tourist parts of town on foot. The hostel I stayed in was Palacios Arenal, and I booked through Hostel World. I love Hostel World because you can easily book and cancel through the app. December 27th, day 2, I took an Uber to the Arenal hanging bridges. This was a lot of fun and overall worth it. If you really want to get the most out of your trip here, hire a guide. I eavesdropped on a few groups and learned a lot more than just walking around by myself. There were leafcutter ants all over the place. So cute. I then took an Uber to the Arenal 1968 hike, which takes you to rock from the 1968 eruption, hence the name 1968. This hike was cool, not very strenuous. It only took a couple of hours and I saw some howler monkeys. I think it was worth it. At the end of the hike, they have a very nice restaurant to rest and get food and drinks. That evening, there was a cheap shuttle from the hostel to the free hot springs. The hot springs are warm, definitely not hot, and just barely warm enough, but it was pleasant. Bring wet shoes on your trip and wear them. When it gets dark, candles are lit. It's super fun and super romantic. You could totally make out or even get a little bit freaky. If my partner were there with me, we would have had some fun. December 28th, day 3. I hiked Cerro Chato, which is a lake in the crater of a volcano. This is a very, very rugged, dirty, full-body hike. I saw a snake and a frog jumped at me, and at the top, I went swimming in the lake. The water was cold, but felt amazing after such a strenuous hike. If you are fit and adventurous, I definitely recommend Cerro Chato. Wear closed-toe shoes, no sandals. When I got back to my hostel, some people were making what they called family dinner. They stretched out a bunch of foil across the table and made a bunch of nachos right on top. It was $15 a person, and I was like, okay, are there dollar bills on it? December 29th, day 4. I went to El Salto, or The Jump. It's a rope swing that swings into a natural pool. There were a lot of people and boys doing some cool flips. El Salto was a lot of fun and totally free. Make sure to wear your water shoes. I then went to an amazing rainforest chocolate tour. They had fun activities and hands-on chocolate making. There were a lot of kids, so it was very kid-friendly, and everyone, even the grown-ups, all had a blast. They have about 30 different ingredients that you can mix and match. You can try the historical drink of the gods, and you can basically eat as much chocolate as you want. It was now time for me to go to Tamarindo. I booked a shuttle at bookaway.com, and it took a few hours. On the way to Tamarindo, the main road was closed because there was a fatal traffic accident. It looked like someone who'd been riding a moped was killed, so be really careful. I'm glad I didn't rent a car in Tamarindo because parking was just insane. For New Year's Eve, thousands of people stream into the city to celebrate on the beach. I heard it's the Times Square of Costa Rica, and I had no idea. That night I went out to Crazy Monkey's Bar, which had Latin dancing like salsa, merengue, bachata, and they also had a DJ like drum and bass and R&B. And they were in two different rooms, so it was a lot of fun. They also had open bar from like 9 to 11 or something, but I don't drink. But the others are totally loaded up. It was a good place. Definitely would recommend it. December 31st, day 6. Joao and I went surfing for about 4 hours. Then that night, we went down to the beachfront for New Year's Eve. There were thousands of people in the street and on the beach, dancing, cooking, drinking, and setting off fireworks. What I loved about my trip were the new adventures. Everyone I met was open and friendly. I felt safe all the time. I didn't hear any cat calling or see any fights or anything like that. I wasn't offered drugs in La Fortuna, but in Tamarindo I was offered drugs a few times, once from an American actually who, quote, bought too much. Overall, it was a great trip. I hope this video was helpful.